Savvy Business Radio, home to over 500,000 listeners per month, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.
Join our mailing list today by texting Savvy Radio to find out about upcoming guests and events and receive a free gift, how podcasting can help increase sales and influence in your business. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week on Savvy, we support individuals and successful individuals in sharing their expertise, knowledge, tips, and stories with the world. Our first guest today is V Crum III. He helps entrepreneurs grow 6- and 7-figure conscious businesses that combine making high profits with making a positive impact. Find out more about JV and his podcast at ConsciousMillionaire.com or ConsciousMillionairePodcast.com. Our second guest, Seth Greene, helps entrepreneurs get the impossible to reach A-plus prospects chasing them. Find out more about Seth at UltimateMarketingMagician.com. Hi, JV. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you today?
Oh, Christine, I am so excited to be connecting with you again because I love every time we get together. It's just like so much fun.
Oh, I am so happy that I think we were connected via our good friend Mark, right? Mark Mawini?
Oh, Mark Mawini. Yeah.
Yes.
He's a great friend of mine with doing everything on coaches. And he and I have been on each other's shows. I guess we've known each other for, I don't know, it seems like it's just a year, but it seems like a decade. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know. When you get to know someone and you're that connected, you feel like you know in a million years. Well, I am so grateful to have you on Savvy today because you have created the Conscious Millionaire, a fabulous podcast business helping entrepreneurs all over the globe. And I want you to share with our audience how you came to creating it and how you became a coach. How did that all work out for you?
Well, I don't know. Where do you want to start? You want to start back when I had the vision that I was going to grow up and be a millionaire? You want to start when I started discovering...
From the crib. No, just kidding. Day one.
I was born in a hospital, under modern conditions. I've never told that story. In an incubator for six weeks. There you go.
Well, I was in an incubator for about 3 months because you know what? I was so impatient as I am today that my mom always says, you wanted out 3 months earlier. What the heck? You've never changed.
Oh, no. I have a friend who their son was born 6 months. No, I was full term, but I was only like 4 pounds, 7 ounces, something like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was kind of a sickly kid. In fact, I was only 36 pounds. These are all different things we've never talked about on podcasts. I was 36 pounds at 6 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, I had my tonsils out. That was a big deal for a while. You have fads. And when the tonsils were taken out, everything was okay.
Interesting. I wonder what that had to do with it. I mean, did you get a lot of what do you call it? Did you get sick a lot as a kid? Because I know I did.
As a kid, I had everything. I had German measles. I had impetigo. By the time I was 4, they stopped giving me penicillin because they were afraid I was going to get allergic to it.
Huh.
I was that sick. I was sick all the time.
Wow.
During my first 6 years in particular, I had a congenital hernia when I was 5. Yeah, and the tonsil thing, it's this throat part. And there was this kind of drive-in restaurant where you also went inside, and they had these big kind of barrel things of dill pickles. I'm a fan of dill pickles and sour pickles, right? And so the doctor asked me, and I'd asked my parents, and they said, "Oh no, it's okay if the doctor says it's okay." It was only like 5 blocks from the hospital, and so they asked me, "What do you want?" The doctor did right after I had my surgery. And when I woke up and I said, I want dill pickles. Now, that vinegar's the last thing. No, they brought a little refrigerator in. I ate dill pickles. My parents would eat my meals because I didn't eat them. And then the first thing I wanted was toast.
Interesting.
And they went down and they made me toast and all these things you wouldn't do when you had your tonsils out, but it worked.
Wow. That's interesting because when I came out, the first thing I wanted was food. And they said, well, we'll give you some ice chips. I was like, ice chips? And then later on, my mom cooked me my favorite meal, which was raviolis, of course, in tomato sauce, marinara. And, of course, that killed my throat. And I was like, oh, my favorite meal.
You had your tonsils out as well.
Yeah, 13. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it was a big deal back there to take out your tonsils. I don't know what they do now.
Isn't it funny? They were like, well, you don't need those. We'll just pull those suckers out. I'm like, I think they're there for a reason.
But it made me healthier.
Interesting, though. Wow. Besides that, what really intrigued, because you were a lawyer.
It was in that moment that I was eating the dill pickles that I said, I'm going to grow up and be a coach.
Really? No.
No,
really? No, okay.
No, that didn't happen at all. That did not happen at all. But I did have a revelation. I mean, I grew up out in the country, like 300 or 400 people in my family had a lot of financial challenges. Everybody in town did. I mean, nobody made any money. And in fact, what's really interesting, because we encode things the way we experience them, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody owned their own little business and everybody was broke. So the one thing I was certain I didn't want to become was a business owner. I didn't know the word entrepreneur at 5 or 6, I'd never heard that word, but I didn't want to grow up and become a business owner. So what happens? That's what I became. I know. Isn't it interesting? I was pre-med. I was going to go to med school. And then I decided I took the pre-med and I decided I didn't want to go to med school. I said, I'm smart enough to take all the classes, but I didn't know what was going on in biology. So I went to chemistry. I'm a numbers guy. I went to chemistry and physics lab. I was good.
Really?
Yeah. And then I go to biology lab, but I was smart enough to go through the motions, but I'd look in the microscope and they go, see the cancer cell? And I go, it's like the other cell.
Looks the same as the others. Yeah.
This doesn't look good to me. I have a feeling that maybe this isn't my right path. But at any rate, so I ended up turning around a family business that was in trucking. My father was almost in bankruptcy, and I'd finished a master's in clinical psych at that point. And I said, okay, I'll help you for 6 months, but I'm going to go to law school, which I did end up going to law school, but not in 6 months. And it just turned out I was a duck to water. I had been really good in school, and the important part of this part of the story is that I was a 19-year-old senior in college. Okay. And how do you really get there? Well, you have to be kind of smart, but being kind of smart doesn't help you because you could be kind of smart and flunk out of college, right? I was really systemized. I had everything down. I mean, by the middle of the semester, I had read everything through the whole end of the semester. I had it all outlined. I knew how to write a paper. I knew how to study for a test. I had systems for everything you would do in school. And I had developed those all on my own. When I got this business that was a total wreck, losing tons of money, I just kind of instinctively started systemizing everything. There were no systems for anything. There was literally one shoebox of records. There was no records, didn't tell anybody. Whatever they paid us got put in the bank. I mean, it was that kind of a mess. And I just started putting systems in place. And very quickly, I remember the third month, I spent a whole weekend going, why are we pulling hundreds of loads a week and we don't have any money in the bank and we can't pay our bills? Like, why is that going on? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I just went through the whole numbers all weekend long. I think a lot of business is so simple, and people fail to be highly successful because they don't do the simple things and really focus on the right things, and they're doing too many things, way too many things, going in many directions. So when I went through all the numbers, this was my discovery. I remember, picking up the phone and calling my dad. It was like I discovered water. I went, oh my God, Dad, I now know why it's not working. We're taking in less money every month and every week than we're paying out. Now that sounds almost like humorous in retrospect, but the truth is that was the problem. And Monday I raised rates with all of our clients as much as 25%. And by within a month, like, oh, wow, we were paying bills and had money left. We were simply undercharging versus what all our costs were.
Now, you were able to see, though, that based on the value you were giving, that you really, and the industry standards that you could raise.
Yeah, and what was really nice was that there was an undersupply of trucking services relative to the amount of product that needed to be moved in our industry. So those in my favor, and I knew that. I figured that out that weekend. I'm going, what are we going to do about this? Well, within a month, I said, well, that worked pretty well. Now, why don't we attack the costs? And I started looking at all the costs, and I determined everybody was overcharging because, of course, my dad didn't take bids. Just whatever they billed, they billed. And I said, stop that one too. So I met with all the suppliers, and I said, by the way, I'm going to take bids from 3 suppliers, including you, and I'm going to go with best bid. And then one person said to me, well, who are the other people who are going to be bidding? And it was just like this little instinct inside that went, don't tell him. And so I said, no, I'm not going to tell you. So I took blind bids, and I've never changed that. And all of a sudden my costs went through the floor. And then I started my own maintenance company. And I said, we're going to hire our own people to do all of our truck and trailer maintenance. And then we created preventive maintenance. And within a very short period of time, that company was, really, by the end of the first year, we had a 6-figure profit, which is really great when you were losing tons of money, right? And within 3 years, we were making as much as $100,000 profit a month.
Wow. That is amazing turnout.
That's how I turned things around. And I really learned a lot about business. And for me, from that point forward, everything was always about systems. I had a system for everything. And then when we would hire people, they would do it exactly like the first person did it. So if you had 2 or 3 people doing the same processes, they were done identically when we got the identical results.
Wow. That is amazing turnout.
That's how I turned things around. And I really learned a lot about business. And for me, from that point forward, everything was always about systems. I had a system for everything. And then when we would hire people, they would do it exactly like the first person did it. So if you had 2 or 3 people doing the same processes, they were done identically. When we got the identical results.
Wow. And that tells me a lot, because I've heard some people in the coaching industry in particular, okay, we're not making enough, I'll just raise my rates. And one guy in this area, he's not a coach, he's a service-based industry doing food and such, but he charged in his restaurant $3 more a sandwich because he just felt like, I want to make more money and keep up with the other restaurants. But the place did not change, the way that he placed the service he provided, what he was giving. Yeah. And I said to him, that's great, you want to raise your rates, but you have to do something where it seems like we're not seen, but you are giving more value. Here you're just deciding, I'm not going to give you more value. The place is going to still look shabby, but I'm going to ask for $3 more a sandwich. That's just not going to fly. And it didn't. So what advice would you have for coaches who might be struggling and said, okay, I'm just going to raise my rates? What questions should they be asking to decide if that's the right route? Yeah,
well, here's probably they need to have a different starting place than raising rates.
Okay.
I believe in having premium rates. I work with high-end clients, and my rates are really at the top of what people charge in business coaching. But that's not your answer. Your answer is the 2 areas that I focus on now with everybody is what I call your internal system, which is your mindset, your beliefs about yourself, how you think, the kind of questions you ask. So that's the internal system, and your external systems. What the external systems do for you is that takes you, because I coach coaches, that takes you through a process. What I found is that a large number of coaches have not clearly defined their market. They've not made it specific. They don't know the 3 top problems of their market, and they have not formulated that into a very specific approach to how they're going to help them. As a result, they're constantly not having enough clients because they don't know who to target. And if you don't know who to target, and you don't know what their top problems are, and you don't know the big result that you're going to help them get, if you haven't figured those things out up front, forget the rates right now, you don't know how to create a machine to constantly bring people in because you don't know how to talk to them. You don't know what message to put. And typically, a lot of people do not develop one channel well before they go on to another channel. And I think that I'm a very big proponent that you do less, but you get it really fine-tuned. So you need one marketing channel, but until you know who that client is, until you know their problems, until you have defined the really big result that's going to jazz you and make a big difference to your client, therefore it's going to have the maximum, we go back to the value you're talking about, that's going to have the maximum value for your client because you're doing something that is your highest value, and then everybody's going to win big. Now you know who to attract. And because you know their deeper problems, you've talked to enough of them, you've surveyed enough of them, you go, oh, this is not only their deepest problems, these are the exact words that they need to hear to know that you understand that's their problem. And that's what they want. Now you can attract them, and you can put together a systemized script for how you're going to enroll them. In high-end clients, I think a lot of people try to enroll in one call. I do a 2-call sequence. So the first call is to explore, and I take them through a breakthrough sequence, and I have a whole script for exactly how I'm going to do that call. And by the end of that 30 minutes, I've been able to determine on my side, is this the ideal client for me, right? So at the end, it's my choice whether I do one of two approaches. One approach would be, if I don't think they're the right ones, I'll go, what was the greatest value you got out of this? Do you know somebody else? And I'll describe my ideal client, who you could refer to me, who would get a benefit out of this kind of call. Okay. If they are the person that I think it's going to be a good fit for both of us, it always has to be a good fit for both of you. My simple question, my enrollment question at that level is, would you like to discuss how we could work together? Right? And if that's a yes, then I go, what I like to do is have a full coaching call with you so that you get an experience of what coaching with me is like. I get an experience with you, and then we can discuss the options at the end of that. And then I do an hour call with them. Now, I'm doing all of that up front, but the only people I'm doing the hour call with are people who I've already determined are ideal prospects and that we would probably work well together. And then I take them through my entire script. I have a script, steps that I go through, and I work with them on a coaching call. And at that point, I should have given them enough value, because there are only 3 reasons that people are not going to say yes. One, they weren't qualified, but you should have taken care of that in the first half hour. In other words, if they, like I now have it broken down depending on how much revenue somebody has a month, I know what they can afford to buy. And try to stretch people. I have group programs, and I can put them in a group program. Right. So I have another option for them that's going to be less expensive if that's what it's for. And then I have options just for coaches who are really ramping up their business, that are priced at a level that will work for coaches that are doing that. But then I also have programs that are for $500,000 to several million, a year entrepreneurs. And those are going to be my high-end clients. So I know that fits for them, and I've designed the programs for them. All of that I can ascertain in that first 30-minute call, because based upon how they respond, the information they've given me, when they show up on the call, I already know from the form that they fill out how much revenue they have per month. So I already have an idea before I ever get on the phone with them where they probably fit. Now let's find out if it fits. So I can do a close at the end of that 30 minutes if it's a group.
Wow.
You see, but that's all systems.
This is what I'm noticing. And what I'm noticing from everything you're mentioning, that I've talked to a number of coaches that have come on, they're glorious. They do awesome work. They really have a gift to help people. I can see that, but they're struggling and they're frustrated. And what it is I'm noticing, I'm hearing from you a really deep structure. It isn't like I'm just going to call them and say, hey, let's wing it and see how you're doing and whatever. It's a deep structure of, ahead of time, you get a feedback. Is this even a possible ideal client? Get on, confirm it in the 30 minutes. But it seems like when you're on that 30 minutes, you're not just willy-nilling it. You have a script ready to verify, ask the right questions so you can decide whether we can help each other and we're a good fit.
Yeah, and it's a whole process that I go through. Everything that I do in that half hour is completely intentional. It's tested. Okay, this seems to work better than that. And, I'm constantly iterating things, but I'm iterating them in a systematic way where I go, okay, let me try a little variable difference on this call, see what happens, right? Once I have them on the big call, now I already know that they're an ideal client before they get there. Now what I want to do is give them great value and dig even deeper in building a relationship with them and finding their deeper pieces and helping them find some real valuable answers, just like I would a regular call.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I ask at the end of every call, even if it's someone that I'm not going to even be doing any business with, is what was valuable for you, and how are you going to implement this in your business this week? So I get them to what was most valuable. I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I want them to identify the values so that they're saying to themselves, wow, this was valuable. Another is that as a coach, we look at things differently than a client does. It's not uncommon at all, maybe 50% of the time, that what someone says was most valuable is not what I as a coach think was most valuable for them. Because I know their process, and I'm going, if they made this shift, that's going to really make a difference in their business. They may not know that, however. So for them, it could be something else. So it's really good for me to know what was most valuable to them because that tells me how they're thinking. And then I go, okay, how are you going to execute that? What kind of results? So I'm always moving people to results, to results, to results. And the reason I'm doing this, I like people to get results, but there's also a very strategic reason for that. The only thing you and I, Christina, are going to pay for, and therefore the only thing our clients are going to pay for are results.
Wow. That is,
you've always got to drive everything to results. So in that half-hour call, I want somebody to walk away with ideally 3 steps, action steps out of that half-hour call that they can go execute that will give them results.
Interesting. And what I'm gathering, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, JV, when you work with either women or men, is there a different procedure? Because when I talk to men, they seem more like, just give me results, facts. When it comes to women, they want to get an emotional understanding of how this will all fit into place. Like it's a little bit different lingo. Have you noticed?
Yes, absolutely. And the listeners to our podcast and radio show are, have done a lot of surveying. It's exactly 50-50 men, women. Okay. And I've coached men and I've coached women, and they are very different. In fact, what I find is that guys, for the most part, well, I think Conscious Millionaire is a bit unique because the people we attract uniformly, I don't get on the phone with anyone that they're not interested in making a positive impact with their life. So I don't just end up with a guy who just wants to make money. That's not who's attracted. Now, but men and women do think differently. John Gray's been on my show 6 times. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right?
Yeah.
It's true. It absolutely is true. I find that men tend to be much more strategic in their thinking a lot of times, and women are more about the connecting and the positive part, but they may not have the strategic part as strongly. So times with women, I do more work on, we do the feel part, but then I help them structure the strategic part. So sometimes I will listen. I'll go, okay, these are the 5 steps I think you ought to take in this order. Let's go do them this week and see what happens. The fact that you're a man, you can be set up emotionally more like a woman. And the fact you're a woman, you could be set up more like a guy. But I think the ideal is I'm always working from a whole brain perspective, and how I look at things is that you've got to bring out that strategic part. And then I have a whole program I'm launching now, Millionaire Inner Zone. One piece of it is whole brain intuition. And you bring out the intuitive part. I don't know a highly successful business person who doesn't make really spot on intuitive decisions on a regular basis. For instance, if you are an expert in an area, okay, so left brain. If you're an expert in an area, you have a lot of reference points for when something's right, when there's a true answer, and when there's a false answer, right? Because you're an expert in that area. Let's just say it's crops. My dad was really fantastic at this. He could go ride we were in citrus business, ride the citrus groves because he harvested citrus. We didn't own all the groves, but he was in harvesting. That was where it all started for him. And there's an estimate that comes out. It's a very famous estimate. I think it's October now. It's been a while for me, but I think it's in October. He would be, say the estimate was 150 million boxes. He would 1 million of that. Just from going out and riding different groves and looking at the oranges on the trees. So that was a form of intuition. What was happening with him was that he had all these reference points, and when he'd look at a tree and it had a certain amount of orange in it, that told him something that other people wouldn't have known. And therefore, at an early stage, you can predict a trend, for example, because that's a form of intuition that I call left brain. And then the right brain is literally when you're picking up information, because all the energy that's all around you is just information. That's what it is. You go back to chemistry. Chemistry is just packets of information. You go back to Einstein. Everything's energy. All the energy packets of information. The more aware we are, the more we can pick up that energy. That's what we typically talk about as right brain intuition. And people develop both and know what I call them their intuition markers, so that if I get something in my forehead that's written out, the chances are very high that this is something I can rely on. I know that from a lot of experience. And that allows me to go, I need to make a decision. This is not only as good as anything else, but actually a better way of using information to make that decision. And I need to make it in the next 30 seconds. So when you have that knowledge about yourself, you can trust, because that's one of the biggest issues about intuition, because we're talking about stuff that we don't, it's not like we walk in a room and it's solid. It's not solid. And so what knowing how your senses pick it up for you helps make it more solid and helps give you reference points that I then have clients go out and just keep a notebook and notice, like all week long, when was your sense of intuition and what was the information you got, and then what actually ended up happening. Was that information accurate? Because I look at intuition as some of us have more natural intuition than somebody else, but this is a skill. And you learn it just like you can learn to pick a basketball and get it in the hoop. If you know how to practice, you're going to be much more successful than you're just randomly practicing. And that goes back to, what do I have? Once again, this is how I do everything. It's a system, right? So I have a system for how to identify and develop your intuition in a methodical way that's really scientific. And that can help you in your business. It helps you in your coaching, because certainly as a coach, 80% of what you're doing on the call a lot of times is really being an active listener and letting the other person, asking the right questions and then listening to them and inkling, one of my favorite words, right? And just kind of letting things bubble up. But you can only let them bubble up if you know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. This has been truly a fascinating dialogue, and I want people not to leave here without finding out more about you and how they can work with you, and more about your wonderful podcast, Conscious Millionaire, as well. Let them know all of that.
Well, sure, absolutely, and thank you very much. Well, first of all, if you're a coach, I love working with coaches, and I have a special program for coaches that can take you through 6 months, and we're really going to build your practice, and I love helping coaches build their practices. And one of the things that I would like to do for your group, my book, Conscious Millionaire, Grow Your Business by Making a Difference, became everything in the internet world's a slice of time. So for 6 hours, it was the #1 book on Amazon, and it was #1 simultaneously in 34 categories, and some of those categories were countries. So that was very cool. Had over 50,000 books downloaded. And then I have a companion course to that. I call it the Fast Track Training. I've got 16 videos. I have audios. I have PDFs. In my book, there are over 100 coaching exercises, because I'm results oriented. I wanted a book that people could take and actually build their business. And so I have a companion journal that has all of those in it. That's a $126 package. I want to give it to every listener 100% free. All we're going to ask is just answer a few questions so we know a little bit about you, so we can better serve you. And then you can get the book, you can get the companion training, and you can get that at consciousmillionaire.com/your book. That's consciousmillionaire.com/your book. Just one phrase. Go in, put your name, your email, get started, and get this information so that you can start utilizing it. And then our podcast, if you go to Conscious Millionaire, we've got a podcast tab. And I'd love for you to be a listener. We have 5 days a week, unique, original show on the Conscious Millionaire Show, where we interview entrepreneurs. You've been on the show, coaches who are particularly approaching business and giving advice to entrepreneurs who want to grow their business and coaches that want to grow their business on how they can build high profits and make a positive impact. You don't have to choose between doing the passionate part of wanting to make a difference and the financial part. At Conscious Millionaire, if you think about Conscious Millionaire, it's about putting the two together. And so everybody that we work with, they want both. And they want to make a difference in the world and feel the deep fulfillment that comes from that. And they want to put more money in their bank account. And we love helping them do both of those.
Yes, that's awesome. And it's so true, because I've had wonderful mentors or coaches who've helped with the practical, maybe systems part, but they leave out the intuition part and the mindset part, which is all the whole kit and caboodle. You need both. So,
right. You've got to have both the internal systems and the external systems working together.
You betcha. Well, thank you, JV. This has been so instrumental having you out here today to share your great gifts and talents. I want to thank you again for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Well, Christina, it's my honor, and it's always fun when we get together.
I know. It's a blast. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Now, here's our interview with Seth Greene, on attracting your ideal client. Hey, Seth, welcome. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for having me, Christina.
Well, I'm very happy to have you out here on Savvy. We are going to talk about marketing today, in particular, how to really attract your target audience or your customer. What are some of the reasons you might not be doing that? Because I've had a lot of entrepreneurs that have come on the show, shared their wisdom, and some of which have told me that they've had a long road to really discovering or really serving their correct client. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So before we go there, share with our audience a little bit about your background. What led you to working in the field of marketing and becoming an expert in that field?
Absolutely. So I started out as a retail financial planner. I was working for a Fortune 500 company, and I was making 300 cold calls a day, interrupting strangers during dinner, breakfast, and lunch, asking them for money. I think you might have hung up on me once or twice, but I'll forgive you for that. And I was very frustrated, banging my head against the wall, because if you've ever cold called all day, it's not very much fun. And in my spare time, I am a professional magician. I had the good fortune to be reading a magic trade journal that had a full-page ad for a marketing course for magicians, which at the time in my early 20s, I was cold calling. I didn't have any money. I got my parents to buy for me as a birthday present. So I used other people's money. I got the marketing course. I doubled my prices, became the most expensive magician in my city, and became the busiest, not because I became a better magician, but because I became a better marketer. So I went to the man who sold me the course, and I said, would this work in my real job as a financial planner? He said, yes. I said, where'd you learn it? He said, the two words that changed my life. He said, Dan Kennedy. So I went to consume all things Dan Kennedy for a length of time, for about a year. I bought books, I bought courses, and then had the good, in the meantime, I found my soulmate. My wife and I got married, and I had the good fortune to consult with Dan, and he told me, you're doing everything your industry taught you, which is completely wrong.
Whoa.
Write me this really big check and I'll change your life. Now, the pitch was all day. It wasn't 2 seconds. So I'm just shortening it for the interview. So I went home to my wife and I said, honey, I know a year ago we got married. 9 months ago, we bought our first house. 3 months ago, we had our first baby. 3 weeks ago, you quit your job to leave me the full-time breadwinner for our family, and I'm cold calling for a living. So it was a busy year. But I need to go borrow, more than our mortgage to go hire this guy, Dan. That didn't go so well, that conversation. And as you can imagine, but I kept asking. And after 30 days of asking her in a row, she finally caved and said, you better pray this works. So I went to work with Dan, and in 2 years, my revenue quadrupled. And the Fortune 500 company I worked for, I was the 6,699th ranked advisor out of 6,700. So I was one up from the bottom when I started. And within 2 years of working with Dan, I was in the top 30 in the country for opening new accounts. So it worked really, really well. It got me written about in a bunch of trade journals and books in the industry. And 8 years ago, Dan, I said, what do I do now, Dan? And he said, you start a marketing company and do this for other people. So 8 years ago, I started Market Domination LLC, which is our company at ultimatemarketingmagician.com. And I started out with me, and one financial advisor was my client. And I applied the same things Dan had done for me and taught me, and that firm took off. And we now have 8 years later, we've got an office building full of great team members, and we serve clients not just in financial services, but in all different industries all over the globe. Along the way, I've written 6 best-selling books, and then I've been nominated for Marketer of the Year, Dan Kennedy's prestigious award, 3 years in a row. And I'm the only person who's ever done who that's ever happened to or for. So it's been an amazing journey.
And certainly sounds so. And, when you were doing the cold calling, there's some people that I know as coaches that tell me, I just won't do it. I won't pick up the phone, call strangers. It's just, no. But what did you learn in the transition from doing the cold calls, just doing it the way you were doing it, and then realizing, hey, everything you've been taught is wrong? Were there huge, significant changes from when you started working with Dan Kennedy to what you were doing before, or was it just slight course corrections?
Oh, it was a night and day difference, because I stopped cold calling completely altogether, and all of a sudden, instead of me chasing 300 potential prospects all day, my phone was ringing with people calling me, and those people already were pre-qualified. They knew what I did. They knew what services I offered. They knew how much I charged, and they were just They were calling to schedule an appointment to come into my office and meet with me to talk about moving forward. So I stopped cold prospecting, and it eliminated almost all of the rejection because I was only dealing with people who actually wanted what I had to offer.
Wow. So what is it that you were doing so differently before that wasn't working that you changed when you started doing it the way Dan Kennedy showed you? What was the major differences that you said it was night and day? Maybe you can't go through all of them in this call today. What are some of the key differences?
Okay. So if you're cold calling for business, it's horrible positioning because you're chasing the prospect. Yeah. You have no perceived value whatsoever. No one, no matter what the industry, no one is sitting at home going, geez, I hope my phone rings today with a telemarketer calling to sell me something. I just can't wait. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. You're an annoying pest. You're an interruption, and they can't wait to hang up on you. They can't wait to go away and go back to what they were doing. So it's lousy positioning, and that's why you have to make so many cold calls to finally find one person. I mean, that's what the old school sales trainer teaches. It's a numbers game. If you just make enough, you'll find a yes, which is true, but it's a horrible way to do it because there is a much better ways to use your time and resources so that you're only dealing with the people who actually want what you've got. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's the fundamental mind shift that needs to take place. And then all of the rest is attracting the right client without chasing them, making them chase you, and then converting them into a paying customer, client, or patient.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic because I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs, and some of the key things I've heard from them is that, hey, I'm trying to get people through the door, but my phone's not ringing off the hook, as you were mentioning yours is. What are some of the reasons that they're not attracting clients perhaps into their business?
I would say the number one marketing sin that we see all the time is that their marketing is boring. So, really? I mean, think about it. If you're bombarded by 5,000, 10,000 marketing, I forget what the stat, it's at least 5,000 marketing messages every day. And that stat is pre-social media. So it's a lot more than that now. Yeah. How are you going to stand out? So if I'm a financial planner and I say I can help you retire and I have lots of investments to offer, well, so does every financial planner. Pretty much we're all very similar as a financial planner. You can get the same mutual fund from almost all of us. Almost all of us have access to the same financial planning software. It just might have a different name on it. And if I say I give great service, everybody says they give great service. So how the prospect thinks they can't all give great service. Somebody's lying. I can't tell the difference, so I won't do anything. So I would say the number one reason why nobody's responding is they're boring. And number two, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but if your marketing, Dan would tell you that if you could take your marketing piece and put another company's logo on it and everything in there is still true, then it's boring because you haven't stood out in any way. You should be the only one who can say what you say. So I'll give you an example of that. So we have one of my favorite case studies is we have a client who is a dentist. And my first question in any marketing consultation, and the 50% of the success or failure of any marketing campaign will come down to your target market. Who are you going after? So my first question is, who's your target market? And he said, well, I'm a dentist. I can help anybody with teeth. And you laugh, but it's true. Those were literally his words. So I said, hang on right there. Let me get on my phone. I'm going to call every single person I know and say, do you still have teeth? Then you should call this guy right now because he can help you if you've got teeth. That doesn't happen. I didn't do that. And no one has ever done that in history because anybody with teeth is not a target market. So we analyzed his practice and found that the patients that he liked treating the best, that paid him the most, that referred the most, that were the happiest, turned out to be a 40 to 50-year-old affluent woman who had gotten divorced in the last 6 months. And she was dating again. She was terrified of competing against younger women. And she wanted to do something to make herself feel better about her appearance, but she didn't want plastic surgery. So she wanted a smile makeover. So I said, we're going to change your entire practice. You're going to fire every patient you've got, except these women. And this is all you're doing from now on. You're never allowed to do another cleaning, another root canal. You don't do braces anymore. You're just doing smile makeovers for affluent, divorcing middle-aged women, and they're paying cash. And he said, oh, my God, I can't do that. I'll go out of business. I said, oh, and by the way, you're closing your office for 3 months because we're remodeling the whole thing.
Oh, my.
because it looks like a dental office. It looks like every dental practice you've ever been to. I said, we're remodeling your entire office. And oh my God. So we went back and forth for a few weeks and finally said, okay, fine, I'll take the leap. I'll trust you. So we remodeled his entire, I didn't personally, but his office was remodeled to look like a high-end spa.
Woo.
The dental chairs got replaced with massage chairs.
Ooh, I want to go there.
See, this is exactly why it works. Every time I tell this story, every woman raises their hand and goes, can I go? Can I go? I'm not getting divorced, but can I go? So the massage chairs have a pedicure base, a manicure on the hand. So while you're getting your smile makeover, you get a mani-pedi at the same time. They play relaxing music. There's aromatherapy being pumped in. They serve you champagne. After you can eat, they give you little finger sandwiches. It's an experience. Like, and every woman, they get picked up in a limo. They get driven there. They bring a friend with. The friend sits with them the whole time and goes, oh my God, I want this too. The limo takes them home. You know, they get care packages at their doorstep the next day. Like, they absolutely love it. Now, all he does is $25,000 cash smile makeovers, and he can do, one a day if he wanted and make way more money than he ever made serving, 50 visits a day doing cleanings. So he's got the right target market. Every affluent divorcing woman knows other women who happen to be getting divorced. They all bring friends with. They refer like crazy. They absolutely love it. He has women who come hang out in his lobby who aren't even having procedures done that day because they just want to hang out there because it's like a really high-end spa, but it's not. So he's made it an experience. He's made it a destination, and there is no other dentist in his city that is doing what he's doing. So every woman who's getting divorced, who wants their smile redone, comes to him. He owns the market.
Wow. This is amazing, Seth. What I'm getting most from this is that you not only made it unboring, his whole way of targeting, you made it really, really targeted, that he got very, very specific on who he was serving.
Yes. And you don't, and your listeners don't have to, they might be thinking, I can't remodel my whole practice, my whole office. Yeah. I can't fire all of my other clients. I'm trying to, get a client today and pay a bill tomorrow. And I totally understand that. I'm not expecting you to do all of this. But if all you got was to pick a micro niche, ultra specific target market and aim all your marketing at them without changing everything else, you would still double your sales in like a year.
Yes. And this brings to mind for me, Seth, a number of years ago, we had a marketer on who said, the one thing that small business has over huge businesses, say McDonald's or Coca-Cola, is they're very stuck in an image that people have already come to identify, that this is what Coke looks like, this is what McDonald's look like. They generally is in the burger business. But as an entrepreneur or small business, you have a lot of freedom to go outside the box. He said, don't be scared to be way out there, to be different, to really express yourself. Don't be scared if some people don't like you, because those, not everyone's going to be your, as we said, target audience or customer. And I thought that was really fascinating, because I think so often we're trying to match each other. Oh, what is this coach doing? What is that consultant doing? Let me imitate them, instead of realizing that we can be completely different, as that dentist did. I mean, I've never heard of a dentist that makes a spa, mani-pedi, pick you up in a limo type thing. You can really stand out.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And you can be different because people are bored. Your consumers, your customers are completely bored by any business that is probably serving them. I mean, think about the last thing you bought in a retail store. Here, play with me for a second. What was the last store you went to?
Okay, I went yesterday to a 99-cent store to buy some stuff for my dog.
Okay. Isn't exactly a perfect example, but because they're selling stuff at 99 cents, but I'm going to play with you anyway. Yeah. So you went to a 99-cent store to get stuff for your dog. Yeah. Did the 99-cent store make any attempt to capture your contact information? Did they have your name, email, cell phone?
Absolutely not, and everything was mostly not 99 cents either.
Well, there's a huge problem right there in that they're not living up to their positioning, but they made no attempt to capture your contact information. They don't know who you are. They have no way to follow up with you, no way to get you back, and that 99-cent store does exactly the same thing as every other 99-cent store. There is no 99-cent store that is doing anything different from all of the rest. So my wife occasionally goes to them too. So there's no difference between, she doesn't care if she goes to Dollar Tree or Family Dollar or any of the others, because to her and to every consumer, they're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now, selling things for 99 cents, I would hope your listeners have a higher transaction value than that, because if you're competing at the very bottom, you're going to go broke, or you're not going to make very much money, or you've got to do such high volume at 99 cents each to make up for that. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's the same thing. Would you rather be the owner of, let's say, do you think the McDonald's at 99 cent value meal is more profitable, or the highest steakhouse in town selling you a $75 ribeye? The $75 ribeye, it doesn't cost them $75 to deliver that ribeye, so they can spend the money on delivering an exceptional experience to you so that you will come back and will tell others and will love it, as opposed to at 99 cents, there's not much profit margin there to spend on create. I mean, all they have is walls, shelves, lights, and merchandise. They can't create much of an experience because there's not enough profit.
Wow. And this brings to mind, for me, Seth, most of our audience here are service-based entrepreneurs, women, and they are mostly coaches. And a lot of them have come over the years and told me, hey, my coaching practice is growing, but very, not that much. What's going on here? And I'm thinking, well, you hit on something, and you said it about 3 or 4 times in your interview so far, and you said created an experience. And I think as a coach, you can look to do that in your own unique way to create an experience for your particular client base. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And your experience, you may never physically see your clients. I mean, there are plenty of coaches that coach over the phone, via webinar, via Skype, via Zoom, so they may not be able to. So for example, I have our highest end service is our VP of marketing program, where we literally become your entire marketing department in a box and do every single marketing campaign thing you can think of for you. So that program has a high monthly investment to it. So we can afford to create an incredible experience. So for example, I had a client who started in the last month, and the first thing, the day after they sign up, they get a welcome, thanks a million gift basket in the mail. Then they get a whole bunch of other stuff in the first 30 days. I call it a 30-day to wow campaign, which we then do for them. But within the first 4 days, and they get their onboarding call, I had this client call and go, oh my God, you're going, I got a thanks a million basket on day 1. I got a box of Girl Scout cookies from your daughter on day 2. I got, a customized magic set teaching me magic tricks with your picture on it and your instructional DVD because you're a marketing magician on day 3. I got this on day 4. He said, you're out of control in the best way possible. This is amazing. I can totally see how if I started doing even half of this in my marketing, it would blow up my business too.
Wow.
And he's in another state. I'm never going to physically meet him. We do business, we do a weekly phone call, and then obviously we execute all of the marketing for them. But you can still create an amazing experience even if they're not coming to a physical location. 80% of our clients are in other states, so we never physically see them, and we've still managed to create a great experience for them through the mail.
Wow, this brings to mind for me, and this is a number of years ago, I don't know if you've heard of Fabienne Fredrickson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I had bought a course of hers, online course for $1,000 several years back, and I was impressed. See, I didn't expect this, and just like you in your marketing, she had sent me a box of brownies. Now, I bought her course just before Christmas, so I got these brownies in the mail. I said, do I have a secret admirer? Where did these come from? And then I realized the card said, you are awesome. And then, of course, on the back it said Fabienne Fredrickson. And I was like, wow, it just made my entire week. Just that special little something to show up in the mail. I think that's something that's really lost art, the getting of the cards, an actual note sent in the mail. But even beyond that, to think, because she had taught a lecture on, your brownies are your gifts, and don't hoard them, eat the whole box of brownies. Well, that's why she sent the brownies in the mail. So it was kind of tied to that. But it was a very unique gift that made me feel special. And it really didn't take a lot on her part and her team to do that special thing to make me feel really awesome.
Exactly. I do something every month that's counterintuitive that I love doing. I will go through, I'll take the people who have opted in for one of our irresistible offers. They've gotten on our list somehow. They've responded to a marketing campaign and then given us their contact information and said, yes, I want your book. Yes, I want your webinar, whatever it is. And I will have one of my assistants print me out a list, and I will spend a day, and I will pick up the phone, and I will call every single one of them on the phone. And it's so, I travel a lot to speak at marketing conferences, and I love being in airports, not because I like to fly, but because I'm uninterrupted and I can make tons of phone calls.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing because you pick up the phone and you call someone, hey, it's Seth Greene. You downloaded you bought a copy of my book last week. Just wanted to make sure you got it, see how you liked it. And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you called me. Like, because nobody does that. Yeah. So they've gotten something in the mail already, and then they get a phone call and they're like, oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And you'd be amazed at what a high percentage of those people end up paying us more money because they got a personal touch in a world where everybody's trying to outsource everything and automate everything. The human, you might be on social media all day, but it's not the same thing as a physical connection.
Wow. And that brings to mind, I mean, today the smartphones are a wonderful tool. It really helps us to connect, and to really keep moving at a fast pace. But as you just mentioned, what it also has created for us, a society that instant gratification, and I can just send out these texts real fast and connect with all my clients. But then I feel that they're not really caring about me. I don't feel that general personal connection. And by you just picking up the phone call, even if it's just a minute, hi, how are you? Just want to make sure you're happy with your product. And if there's any way we can serve you, makes me feel like you really care about me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, this is fabulous. Now, you had mentioned earlier that when that dentist you work with, he had gotten very specific. Is that one of the reasons you think a lot of entrepreneurs have difficulty attracting their client market? They're not very specific on who their target audience is?
Absolutely. You laughed when I said that he said he could help anybody with teeth. But think about, a coach, well, I can help improve anybody's life. Or, how many of your coaches or consultants have something really, really specific? Are you a coach? Even to a certain level, gender. Do you coach men, women, or both? Everyone will say, well, I'll take anybody who can fog a mirror, write a check, and wants to be coached. But I used to say that before I started working with Dan in financial advisor land. I'd say I can take I'll help anybody who can fog a mirror and write a check and buy a stock. But unless you've got Nike's marketing budget, you can't reach all of those people. Yeah. So the more specific you get, the more people know to raise their hand and say, yes, this is for me. And think about it. Those affluent divorcing women could get a smile makeover somewhere else, and it would cost a whole lot less money. They could easily get it for like 10 grand somewhere else down the street. But the 25 grand gets them the ability to have such an incredible experience that they're happy to pay it. So if you pick a target market that is, Gary Halbert, the late, great Gary Halbert tells a story of, you have a hot dog stand. What's the biggest thing you want? And people say, I want a great location on the beach, or I want great hot dogs, or I want a secret sauce, or I want all this stuff. And at every seminar he ever did, he told this story. And he said, no, you absolutely don't want any of those things. And I will beat you all day long if you give me what I want. And everyone's like, what do you want to make the secret hot dog stand? And Gary says, I want a starving crowd. Because if they ain't hungry, it doesn't matter. So who your listeners, who is their starving crowd? Because if they say, I can coach everybody, that doesn't make me want to pick up the phone and go, I got a referral for you, or I got to sign up for that service. But I was speaking at a recent event, and there was a coach who was one of the speakers, and he had a really tightly defined target market of what he specifically worked. I won't give you the whole thing, but he specifically worked with a certain level of entrepreneur, had to be the founder of the company, was dealing with certain issues in terms of scaling up their company. It was affecting their personal life in this particular way. It was manifesting in this. The stress was being handled. They were doing this now, and it wasn't working to handle this type of stress. And he listed that, and I said, oh my God, that's me. Sign me up right now. And we're now working together because I was like, that's exactly who I am. That's exactly my issue. That's what you can fix it. Sign me up. There were other coaches who spoke during this 3-day event, and none of them had that. They were like, oh, I can help anybody at any stage of business. And I'm like, yeah, but if he specializes in just that, think about it. If you have, if your arteries are blocked and you need a quadruple bypass, do you let your general practitioner do it, or who makes 60 grand a year and has never done one? Or do you go try and find the best cardiothoracic surgeon in your city, or maybe go to another bigger city to find an even better one and happily pay whatever they ask because they do 4 of them a day?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want the specialist.
Absolutely. And what I just picked up from you, Seth, and it's happened so much in this conversation, is that people not only want a good job or know that you're going to serve them whatever expertise in their general way, very specifically that you can help them with, but that you create the experience for them. And
nobody gets excited to go to the dollar menu or dollar at McDonald's or the dollar store. Yeah. But if, my wife tells me we're going on a date and we're going to the Chop House, which is my best steakhouse in Buffalo where I live, my eyes light up because I'm like, I'm getting my 21-ounce ribeye that I've been, and I can't wait. Like, nobody gets excited about McDonald's except your kids for the overpriced crappy toys.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard that it was very interesting that I heard that McDonald's is the number one toy distributor in the world because of their Happy Meals, because they
are not only the number one toy distributor, but when they decided to include apples as an option in their Happy Meals, they became the number one buyer, the number one consumer of apples overnight in the entire world.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's
because they've got such a huge distribution platform.
That's amazing. And that's just a different way to serve. But coming from our and that is actually, if we think about it, that is the way McDonald's makes their customers feel special. It might not be because they're doing ribeye steaks, but they're doing things that make their client base feel special, like the kids for their toys or the apples so their kids can be a little bit healthier when they're having their burger. So it's their way to serve their client, make their client feel that extra bit special.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kept on picking up on that. That is really fascinating. Well, this has been such a wonderful talk. I don't want us to leave, though, without people finding out how they can find out more about you, find out more about your wonderful services.
I greatly appreciate that. We have a special offer for your listeners. If they go to ultimatemarketingmagician.com, they can get a free download of my new book, Market Domination for Podcasting, which will be perfect for your coaches and consultants and can teach them step by step exactly how they can dominate their market space and attract all the ideal clients they can handle with a podcast. It will also teach them how to turn it into a best-selling book, which is another great credibility tool that will generate business for them. And they will also be able to attend a live training session with me where I will literally walk them through every single step we do for our clients that we provide a done-for-you podcast and best-selling book for, so that they can do it themselves. It's all at ultimatemarketingmagician.com.
Wow, that is fascinating. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful gift. And I know my audience is really going to appreciate it. Again, give everyone the website one more time.
ultimatemarketingmagician.com.
Awesome. Well, Seth, I want to thank you again for coming to share your great wisdom and gifts today on Savvy Central Radio.
Thank you.
SavvyBusinessRadio.com, home to over 500,000 global listeners via our podcast and AM/FM platforms. We help business owners connect to successful individuals who share their gifts with the world. Get your message out in a bigger way with Savvy's live, professionally recorded shows. Find out more at SavvyBusinessRadio.com.
Winty Aviation T-shirt art. Here's an excerpt of our upcoming interview next week with James Miller on overcoming mediocrity. That step, why is it so often that we self-sabotage? We get a great idea, we maybe start going to the gym to get back in shape, and then we get off of the wagon almost immediately. Why does that happen?
I coined something I call the 3-second rule, which is essentially self-sabotage happens in 3 seconds. I know for me, what I find where it typically happens is New Year's resolutions. 3 seconds, boom, we're out, we're done. So we're done. But so the 3-second rule is essentially, if I want to make a change, if I am not proactive and being really aware of what this change is going to be, for example, I want to get up, really ambitious goal of getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go to the gym. Well, when 5 a.m. comes along, my alarm goes off. If I'm not dedicated to getting up, literally within 3 seconds, I hit the snooze button and I roll over and go back to sleep. And I'm like, I'll do it later. I'll go to the gym later. So then I'm at work for lunch, and I'm like, I'm going to go to the gym now. And then if I think about it, I'm like, I kind of come up with a logical reasoning. Then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, I'll go after work. And then after work, your friends are like, well, let's go to happy hour. Well, I'll go later. So the point is, the 3-second rule is anytime we're going to make a change, our previous negative behavior, that negative pattern, will all of a sudden rise up and say, wait a minute, that's too much work. Or we don't have time for this, or we really can't fit in a workout today because we have some random thing that we'll come up with. But the point is the unhealthy behavior will always speak louder than the new healthier pattern, because the new healthier pattern hasn't even been incorporated into our life. And so that's why we have to always be careful. It really is 3 seconds. For example, I love chocolate, okay? And so if I'm going to the grocery store, and if I go by that, if I know that I'm coming by that aisle, I literally have to say, all right, James.